Goedemorgen allemaal. Ik wil eigenlijk afstarten met de Kickstart van deze dag, 6 april, met als thema: wie leidt de systeemverandering in verpakkingen? Daarvoor hebben we 4 experts hier aan tafel. Ik begin hier met Diede van Unravel die we hebben. Roel van Sprang van KIDV die we hebben, een belangrijke speler. Johanna hebben we van Yo-Yo Boost Reuse. En Rick Hedding zit aan tafel van Hoordijk Verpakkingen. We zullen vandaag de eerste 3 kwartier gebruiken om aan de hand van stellingen over positieve verbazingen en negatieve verbazingen gaan we discussie voeren aan tafel. En daarna gaan we ook het publiek vragen stellen voor het laatste kwartier van deze sessie. Ik ga van start en daarmee geef ik het woord aan Diede.
Ja, volgens mij... Oh, nu doet hij het wel. Top. Goedemorgen allemaal. Mijn naam is Diede dus dankjewel voor de introductie. Ik denk dat het goed is om eventjes heel kort wat te vertellen over wat wij als bedrijf doen, zodat het iets meer sens maakt over wat ik daarna ga vertellen. Ik werk bij Unravel. Wij zijn een neuromarketingbedrijf en we doen eigenlijk verschillende dingen. We hebben 3 verschillende takken. We hebben Unravel Behavior, dat is onze consultancy-tak. En daarbij passen we psychologie toe voor gedragsverandering. En dat kan op heel veel gebieden zijn. Kan soms wat meer commercieel zijn, maar vaak ook wat meer maatschappelijk. Dus bijvoorbeeld, hoe kan je ervoor zorgen dat mensen meer duurzame keuzes maken? Nou, daarnaast hebben we onze onderzoekstak, dat is Unravel Research. En daarbij kijken we met EEG en eye-tracking echt in het brein van de consument, om op onbewust niveau te kijken wat gebeurt er nou wanneer mensen beslissingen maken. Ja, en tot slot hebben we ook een academy, waarbij we veel trainingen geven over onderwerpen op deze gebieden. En dan mag mijn stelling in beeld komen, of stelling. Want ons werd gevraagd van kun je nou iets positiefs noemen en iets minder positiefs. En we beginnen met het positieve. En dat is dat er veel onderzoek is gedaan en het blijkt dat mensen bereid zijn om meer te betalen voor verpakkingen die meer duurzaam zijn. Nou, hartstikke positief natuurlijk. Maar wat wel een beetje lastig daarin is dat natuurlijk de vraag is, weten mensen dan ook wat daadwerkelijk duurzaam is? Dat is natuurlijk niet altijd het geval. Maar wat wel weer heel mooi daaraan is dat we tegenwoordig echt met onbewuste meetmethoden kunnen kijken van wat zorgt er nou voor bij een verpakking dat iets als duurzaam wordt ervaren. Waardoor je daar ook daadwerkelijk mee aan de slag kan gaan. En ook echt op onbewust niveau, want daar maken we ook daadwerkelijk de keuzes. Impact kan maken om betere verpakkingen te maken. Dan is natuurlijk wel de vraag, is iets wat er duurzaam uitziet of wat duurzaam overkomt ook daadwerkelijk duurzaam? Dus daar zit nog een uitdaging in om daar ook ethisch mee om te gaan. Maar in ieder geval positief dat we dat steeds beter kunnen onderzoeken.
Yo-Yo. Joanna, sorry. Do you maybe want to react on that? Because you do research and also know that from your daily job.
Yes, on the customer, yes. So actually it was in Dutch. So,
Sorry. What was your question?
Yes, I read it.
To react, she needs some English explanation.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
So basically the point is that it gets easier and easier to really discover what drives a consumer, because we can really look into the brain to see it. And this is good because sometimes it's hard for people to know what really drives them, because a lot of the decisions that we make happen inside or outside of our conscious awareness. So that's why it's a good thing that we can look into the brain now.
Okay. Hi, I'm Joanna, actually from Yo-Yo Boost Reuse. We are a implementation consultancy, so we are helping offices in the Netherlands switch to reusable takeaway packaging. And actually, the past few years of our experience helping offices here in that transition from disposables to reusables showed that awareness among customers is really the driver of change, as long as it's really managed properly. So this intrinsic motivation is very important, that for example in the environment of Yo-Yo, which is reusable packaging, it's really important, and our experience shows, which we are very happy about, is that users are aware of the impact of takeaway packaging they're making, and when they have the opportunity to change and it's available to them conveniently, it happens. And for that reason, we actually see, we also measure customers' experience in the offices. So their awareness really helps in driving that change. And observing their daily lifestyle, like how they are buying coffee, meals, and salads. So,
did you know that it was even possible to measure the unconscious decisions that we take? Have you ever seen it before?
Actually, not, but maybe we do it as yo-yo unconsciously ourselves when we are evaluating our customers and how the implementation of reusable packaging is working, because we're coming to the office observing how customers are behaving, what is their customer journey in the office, where should be the return stations or the communication. So possibly, yes, we are all busy in our daily life, so a lot of decisions are unconscious, are just habits, and if we steer them conveniently for the users, we can make their different unconscious decisions, maybe. Yeah.
Can you maybe give an example where your research maybe changed or gave an advice which you would not expect to give to a brand owner?
Yeah, I think maybe to say a little bit more about what Johanna says is I think it can be interesting, for example, to use eye tracking because sometimes we do not know where people look at, and if you have interesting communication, then it's really important that people really see it, and sometimes we place it somewhere where people do not see it, so we use that oftentimes to find the important space, a location to put the communication.
But can you give a concrete example where you even was astonished, hey, I would not expect this outcome of a research?
Yeah, and that's also on the next slide, so maybe I give away too much then already.
Do it.
Do it? Okay. Well, the thing is, we are really irrational as people, and sometimes we think, okay, so people are influenced by the sustainability of packaging, and we all want to be more sustainable, or at least a lot of us. So Albert Heijn also thought this, and they made a packaging with less plastic. So they thought, okay, let's put it on the packaging. But what happened was that instead of people experience this as less sustainable, they even thought, they did experience this as less sustainable because there was more focus on the fact that there was less plastic. Well, before it was on the packaging, they didn't even notice the fact, or they did see it was plastic, but they didn't notice that it was so much plastic. So that's really, interesting, I think.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. We go over to the next speaker. That's Rolf. I will put on the next slide. The floor is yours.
Yes, Rolf van Sprang, KIDV. Just wondering if there are people here who don't know KIDV yet. Okay. So maybe I can explain a little bit on that. So KIDV, is a knowledge institute for sustainable packaging in the Netherlands. And we advise producers and importers how to make their packaging more better recyclable, more sustainable, circular. That's what we do at KIDV. We develop online tools. We give trainings, seminars, and we do a lot of that. We have also a presentation later on 11:45 on stoorfactoren. Anyway, about this positive thing I observed a few weeks ago was that Albert Heijn is switching to a cardboard bread bag clips, and this looks like a very small change, but it's a huge change for all the factories that produce the bread and the bags and close them. Until now, most of the bags, they were closed with the polystyrene plastic clips, as you probably know. Well, they are very convenient. You can reclose the bag very easily. But in the recycling stream, they get lost, and they only can get burned for energy in the end. So by switching to cardboard clips, well, there is the possibility at least, and still, of course, the consumer has to do it. They have to put it in the paper bin, and then it is recycled in a proper way. And in this case, Albert Heijn is doing that. I think they make a good example, and they talk about 125 million of those pieces per year. So it's quite significant. You can say, okay, why don't you use the plastic tape around it? That's also a sustainable solution because it's still connected to the bag and it's recycled, but you cannot really reclose it. So the convenience is still there, and now you have a recyclable option. So I think it's quite positive.
Anybody in reaction to that? What you think of this development? Rick?
I think it's a good example where consumers getting a good alternative without an extra cost. I think with regard to the first speaker, I think that consumers are aware of durability. They pay a lot of attention to it, but in the end of the day, they have a wallet as well, which makes the decision. In this example, Albert Heijn is driving the change, and it's very acceptable for a consumer. And I cannot think of a consumer who is against a solution like this. So this is a very good example of how to proceed.
With my background in a plastic recycling facility, I know that small parts aren't that easy. So yes, but then I think that the paper recycling industry faces the same problem. Do you know how that will go with such a small piece?
Yeah, because if you put it in the paper bin, it's all paper gets and board gets in a big pulper, and you get the fibers back, and the size doesn't matter. Well, in this case, for paper and board.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, but I was also wondering because usually bread is packaged in plastic bags and then it's closed by this paper clip, right? Isn't that creating more confusion for customers because there will be this extra step that they have to separate the two? Like, wasn't that actually better that the whole packaging was plastic instead of mixed two materials?
Well, I think that especially in the Netherlands, people can discriminate paper from board very easily, and we have a good recycling stream for paper and board.
So that will be picked in the sorting.
Yeah, intuitive. I think it's an intuitive thing. Still, and maybe you can help with that to check with the consumer whether they really are open for it. But I think it's a good thing, and it's very interesting too that Albert Heijn is doing that. So a few months ago we gave a training seminar to the bakery branch, so the branch of several bakeries, and they were facing the same challenges and questions. So I think Albert Heijn is giving a good example as a big retailer, and the smaller ones can follow. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for your opinion. Let's go over to the next one. Joanna.
Okay, I already shared a few facts about Yo-Yo, indeed, Yo-Yo Boost Reuse. Just as a reminder, we are helping offices here in Netherlands in the transition from disposable packaging to reusable takeaway tableware. And indeed, in our experience, we saw that the aware customers in the office, they were creating the lead for the change. They were the driver for the change that was followed by the brands. And what we mean by brand is, for example, in-house catering companies, facility management companies, those who service directly their customers, so they're servicing the meals and drinks on a daily basis. They are hearing that the awareness among end users is growing. Globally, like the global objectives of almost every business is very much focused on sustainability, on circular economy, or less waste. So we do see that in the lead are aware customers who are happy to welcome that change, but that change has to be delivered by the suppliers like caterers and delivering the reusable tableware to them so that they can have their takeaway coffee, salad meal in a waste-free packaging. And usually the brand wants to meet the expectations of their end users and satisfy them. So that's what we observe in the environment of reusable takeaway packaging implementations.
Let's go to your...
Yes, so what I also mentioned a little bit earlier, what we are happy with is really how the change that we're implementing in the offices here in the Netherlands, we also measure customers' experience as well as staff experience, and we see that users, when they have actually the opportunity to change, they do adapt to the change, but it's very important that change is really implemented properly and thoughtfully, and it's just not thrown at the customers in an inconvenient way. So every implementation and switch to reusables has to be really taken step by step and thoughtful, like we just discussed, where customers are looking, how they're behaving. This is all that has to be measured and assessed before implementing reusable tableware in the offices. And then it can work. Majority of end users that we measure, they're happy with the change, that they can have their takeaway waste-free. So that's a very positive.
Anybody on the table a question to Ioana?
Yeah, I think it's really good, of course, that more people get aware, but I think there are also still a lot of people that are not aware of what to do. What is the biggest challenge for you within your company to improve that?
Yes, so actually the biggest challenge in implementations of reusable packaging is the other side of the business, which is personnel and staff. Mm-hmm. So consumers, that's true. Most of them are aware, some of them are not, but we make that change from inside out, and we spread the communication. So the communication plan before we even start such implementation is very wide. We do promo events to educate those who are not aware yet. But the challenge is more on the personnel and staff side, because this is the direct contact with the end users. When you give a cup suddenly from one day to another that is not in a paper throwaway cup but in a reusable, for example, hard plastic cup that requires the customer to return it at a certain point and behave a little bit different, it requires the engagement from personnel. So this is the key to success, actually implemented properly with the staff members.
Great. Thank you.
Did you also hear about how it's now going in, for example, Germany and France? When you go in Germany with your cup to the McDonald's and say, I want a coffee, and then indeed what you say, the employer says, it takes too much time, it doesn't fit, here is the other cup.
Yes, actually staff that is not trained, not prepared, and not engaged in the process from the beginning can contribute to big failures of waste-free systems, because I experience that myself also when I go out in the town to places where indeed reusability is promoted, but suddenly a new staff member has no clue about it or is negative and was never trained, and they don't promote such systems. So bringing that awareness also among personnel is really core and should not be neglected. We have created, for example, like funky animation videos just to, in simple words, to explain an animation why we do reuse, why there's a new law and the compliance and why it should be promoted, so that they feel engaged. And in those places, implementations are very successful, where the staff is fully onboarded.
Okay, thanks for that important lesson learned. Rick, let's go over to you. Present yourself and give your opinion.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Rick Henning, representing Royal Hoordyk. Royal Hoordyk may be pretty well known. We are specialized in the production of packaging materials for fresh foods. Fresh foods, then we say salads, vegetables, fruits, tapas and spreads. We started the company 100 years ago with the production of wooden crates for cucumbers. We consider that to be a good solution. Nowadays we produce PET solutions for fresh foods. We consider that a very good solution. We are still open for other solutions. We consider PET to be so far the best. It's the most sustainable for the packaging of the fresh products itself as well. What I'm proud of, what we achieved last year, was a cooperation in the chain between recycler Human Corp, the packaging company Hoordyk, and Albert Heijn as a retailer, that we have that has resulted in a solution of a tray-to-tray solution of food packaging. It's a very innovative, very beautiful example of where used food packaging out of post-consumer material is recycled into a new tray for food solutions. It's an innovative, direct solution to the EU and national sustainability targets of 2030, 2050. And it is especially in the field of recycled content. We never could achieve this individually. It's a solution of the chain. It's about the companies which collect, the companies which recycle, the companies which make a product of it, the government, all kind of research institutes, it's designers, it's retailers, and in the end the consumer as well. Only by means of a common approach we are able to change a system. That's what I want the statement of my contribution for today.
Maybe Rolf, how are you looking towards this as KDV?
Well, very positive. We think it's a very good development, and we wished it could travel further. This same way of working with PET trays and make them circular. The big challenge is here to get European approval for such usage of, in fact, mechanical recycled PET. And I know there is, let's say, okay in the Netherlands. I'm just wondering, what about Europe? Is EFSA also moving?
We are working on that. We are, as you might know, Petcore is working, and then we cooperate with a lot of companies in Europe to get the approval for the in-between layer solution. That means that you have a recycled content in between two layers of chemical recycled material or virgin material. That's where you cooperate with your competitors to get a solution which is workable. And I think that is where Petcore is doing an excellent job.
Yeah.
And we are pretty confident that we reach a solution for that.
Yeah, so I think Europe is waiting for that also, for those new developments. And by the way, EFSA is the European Food and Safety Authority. Excuse me that I mentioned that.
That's okay, that's okay. Okay, thank you, Rick, for your contribution. Let's go over to Dida's next statement, something that astonished you in the market last year.
Yeah, I gave it away already a bit, but I'm going to think of something else, I think. So I think it's really interesting to see that oftentimes what we expect to happen when we start with an intervention isn't always what really happens. And this is a challenge, I think, within influencing behavior. And sometimes I think it's really important to do a really good problem analysis if you want to change behavior. And I think that's also the question with this whole discussion, where we want to talk about whose responsibility is it to change. Because I think, you can say, okay, it's the responsibility of the consumer. But if the consumer doesn't know what is sustainable, for example, then how are they going to change it? Because, for example, a lot of people still think that glass is really sustainable and reusable or recyclable. But oftentimes that's not even the case. So I think it's really interesting, if we want to change the behavior, to find out, okay, what's the problem? Is it education? Or is it something else? And in that way, I think we can really make a change.
Rolf, I'm also really interested how you look at the case, how to change the consumer. But should we change him or should industry change? How do you look to that?
Probably they need to change both. Education should be there, and we can do advertisement on television. But I think it needs to be more clear also on the packaging. Whether there is recycled content, whether it's recyclable, etc. So there should be more European guidance on that. And I say European because a lot of producers, they're not only producing for the Netherlands, they are producing for many countries. And for one country, France, they have to put the 3-man logo on, and for Germany, other types of logos. And because you have the big producers, they have all kinds of labels, icons they put on the packaging, and it's not clear at all. So the new packaging and packaging waste regulation might help in that, because they are trying to harmonize also the logos on pack, and there will also be more work on the European certification level on recycled content, where to dispose it, and then I also have the same labeling on the packaging as on the waste bins. So okay, just look at this and put it in that bin, and not working with QR codes that you have to scan everything before you know where to put it. So yeah.
Okay. Dieter, do you want to maybe add something or?
Yeah, I think that's a nice start, because with all kinds of type of behavior, the easier you make it to do the right behavior, the more people do it. So I think that's a good start to make it more clear.
What I see in my daily environment, the grandparents of my children, the children actually adapt it, and it's easy for them, and they know. But the grandparents, it's totally different. So you have also, there's no one consumer. There's so many consumers to talk to and to communicate to. How to deal with that? Can you give something advice about that?
I think it's especially hard, and you already mentioned it, because we have a lot of habits, of course, and if you want to change a habit, that's kind of hard, because habits are deeply rooted inside our brain. So that's a big challenge. And also for that, I think if you want to change a habit, then you first need to know, okay, what does the consumer know already? But more also, what other influences besides knowledge are influencing the behavior? Because a lot of the times, a habit is just formed, and we just keep on doing the habit because that's just what we do. So that's really interesting. And if you really want to change behavior there, you really need to follow a whole model. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later during my talk. Because I don't have the time to do that now. But
doesn't it also really start at schools? So should we not start much earlier and start with the younger generation and hope then that they convince the others, maybe?
Yeah, the earlier you start, the easier it is, because if you want to change behavior or you want to prevent a bad habit to form, it's easiest to do it before it's formed. Yeah.
Is KDV also doing that? I understand there is a lot of fields where you need to influence. Is schooling, education a part already?
Yeah, so most of our contacts are with producers and importers of products and packaging material, and we give trainings. We have a website with a lot of information, and we give trainings to the packaging developers, the buyers, the marketeers, etc. So they know how to what information to put on the packaging and choose the right material for the packaging. So we are not in direct contact with the consumers, unfortunately, but indirect through the producers and importers.
Okay, let's maybe go over to your astonishment of the past year.
Yeah, it's about the paper bottles, and I know it's kind of a pilot. I know, and you see them here and there popping up, even for wine. I think it's a quite confusing development, at least for the consumer, because it is very hard to take everything apart. If you have, some of the paper bottles are better, but there are also some that you really have to use a knife or scissors to take it apart, and then put it in the right waste basket. It will be separated in plastic and paper. In the end, I don't think that many people do that. So in the end, it can end up in the paper basket where the plastic will disturb the waste stream, or it can end up in the plastic where the paper will disturb. So it's not a very good solution. So you have to make it more intuitive. In that case, you can see also now and then for the big containers for wine, a few liters, and they are very easy to disassemble and put it in the right waste basket. So on one hand, it is a strange development. So it can go into a good direction, but also turn into the bad direction, I think. And also, the reason behind this, why would you do that? Because you can have maybe with PET bottles with statistical reimbursement could be a better solution for the environment as well as for the carbon footprint as recycling.
Why is there still no other regulations or regulations forming that, to my opinion, even I, for example, take Alpro and I try to do good, don't use the normal milk yogurt anymore, have Alpro, but then I really almost every time I'm irritated, it's a small packaging with all those metal, plastic, paper around it. It really makes me, why is this still being made?
Well, I talked before this about the packaging and packaging waste regulation. There's also a part of it which is prohibiting overpacking. So they say they are going to look more into that. But it is also depending on the packaging equipment at the producer and what they use. It asks for huge investments to change packaging equipment into other materials. So, for instance, if you have a big Tetra Pak for 1 liter and they would like to go smaller, it's more easy to take smaller Tetra Paks than to change to another completely plastic packaging, for instance.
Do you also maybe know? I know Campina, at beginning of the end of last year, went to the packaging, the Tetra Pak without the plastic thing, and then said, "Oh no plastic," so we leave it out and we go over to the old packaging without any plastic lid.
Yeah.
Why did they change back again? Do you know the story behind that?
Well, they were surprised by the negative feedback because people don't want to give up convenience. And it's very easy to unscrew and screw back. So it's also, that is the lady next to me, for what they are what they are saying that they are doing for the environment and what they are actually doing. So that's quite a difference, yeah.
Did how do you look towards that? What could they have done better maybe there?
Yeah, I think what you say already in the beginning, I think the easier you make it for people, the easier or the bigger the chances that they really will behave like that. So I really understand your worry of the thing you put on the slide. And also we always say within our company, people do not do what they, it's easy, hard to translate it. People do not do what they say and they don't say what they do. And it's not because they do not want to behave like they say, but we just there are so many things that influence our behavior, and it's not only education, it's way more. Actually, education is just a small part of it. So, yeah, that's a big challenge.
Joanna, do you maybe have an example how you face this? That maybe one of your contractors said, okay, I want this very technical question, and then you come up with something soft, and that they, is that really the case?
Yeah, actually referring to the discussion a little bit earlier that the customers are not, they are declaring something else and they are acting differently. I think it's also because what we see is there is a lot of misinformation and conflicting information about what's sustainable, what's not. So if the user is trading their convenience for something that is called green, but they are actually not sure about it, then obviously they are complaining that the new solution is less convenient and that the brand is trying to impose on me some different behavior. They just don't trust it. So plenty of items are compostable, but they're not composted, recyclable, not recycled. What we experience with our contractors and in the offices when we make that change from single-use coffee cups or salad containers into reusable system is that it's not only communicated very well, it's we really try to keep the current behavior of the customers as it was and be very strong on the brand side. So I personally was very frustrated years ago that I have so much packaging, so much takeaway disposables in the bin. And that's what majorly users are unhappy with, the trash that they're generating. They don't know what's good, what's right, they don't know where to sort. But if the solution is easily available at hand and they're also educated at the same time while being given that solution that this is the right one, like, hey, this reusable cup, if you return it, it will be washed, it will be reused, and this is the impact you are making, then their behavior really change and they adapt.
But now you even saw the Campina example, maybe don't know if you know it. They turned it back now to more plastic, where there was clear communication. I was really astonished. Why didn't this work?
Yes, so clients also in the offices, as soon as they hear one complaint or unhappiness or 1, 2 or 30 customers out of 2,000, it's really traumatizing for a catering company or a facility management company, because they want to delight their customers. And if there's one person only that is unhappy, we do notice and observe that brands are very scared, and they quickly want to switch back. They want to withdraw. So in order to proceed with change, you have to be very consistent and strong, standing that the solution you are proposing to the customer is the right one. And yes, we are going back to the milkman. So,
okay, maybe let's go over. Take this moment to go over to your next slide in astonishment that you had.
Yes, so something that is really a little bit maybe disappointing still is that there's very little number of these early adopters and companies that are willing to switch to reusable packaging, and they're willing to do it right, because what we observe now with the new single-use plastic products law in the Netherlands, limiting the use of disposables, the trend is that starts happening is, okay, we will stop serving our coffee, smoothies, whatever in single use. We will replace it with reusables, but we don't care whether it comes back to us. We don't know the return rate. We don't know what's the CO2 impact. So the implementation of these solutions can, in a wrong way, can really contribute to another new disaster. And we're replacing disposables with hard plastics very often that are great if they're reused, and they're a disaster when they are thrown away, so after one use. So this is a little bit disappointing that reuse might not be demonstrated by the companies that are implementing it. And that's a danger to environment generally.
Anybody a reaction maybe to that?
Yep. I think I'm a big advocate of reuse. It's a very good solution. It might be a very good solution, but in order to improve the adaptiveness among customers, you have to take care of it in the right directions. Reuse is not always the best solution, and you have to be honest as well. Some closed loop can be a solution as well with single use, as long as it is contributing to reducing all the consumer waste we create. And I think if you take the right examples with reuse, that will generate a success as well. So I think the whole process is select the right potential customers, change them, and then a good example will accelerate as well the acceptance. If you take use of the wrong example, McDonald's is struggling a lot as well. They have been forced to go into reuse. It's a big mess for them. And is that the solution we want? In the end of the day, it's not contributing to a positive LCA. You might have other solutions. So I think force is not the right way to do it. It's choosing the right examples.
Yeah,
there's something. Yes, actually, that's right, and that's why the tailor-made approach for every closed-loop environment is needed. And really, our experience showed that one size does not fit all. There are plenty of apps, RFID-driven solutions, reuse. Like McDonald's did one thing, offices do another thing. So it really has to fit the operations of the organization and the way the customers within that organization behave. So that's why the implementation really has to be taken step by step and thoughtful to be successful, and then to monitor the results and change when it's needed. So it's really a process of change. It's just not like we swap from yesterday to tomorrow into reusables and that's it. It's really a process.
Do you think more regulation would help, or how could we speed up the process? There's now so much talking.
No one's walking. Yes. Regulation for sure helped recently, but there are many gaps in the current regulation. that will generate that problem that I mentioned earlier. They are imposing reuse models without giving tools and to demonstrate the reuse. So, of course, governmental incentive helps, because now it's not anymore the early adopters, the catering companies or packaging companies that years ago already worked with us and implemented reusable. Now everyone is jumping into subject of reuse, but more guidance and maybe more companies like Yo-Yo are needed, and behavioral experts and KI dev organizations that are they have the know-how how to make such implementation, but it has to be really customized. It just, one side doesn't.
Can I ask you something? Do you think the companies really do not care, or maybe it's also a problem that they underestimate the impact they can make? Because I think self-efficacy is also really important if you're working on it.
I think companies are people, and whether these are employees in the office or the employees of the catering company, the chefs, the cleaning people, the staff, these are people, and they create these companies, and they care, but everyone is busy, and business is about business. It's about also making money and surviving. So also that's also with the behavioral change. We shouldn't implement such solutions expecting people to behave how they want them to behave. Everyone is busy. Who cares which bin to throw something in? We have to take into account that people don't understand that. They don't have time to do that, and we shouldn't bother them with that. So companies care. Good thing is that sustainability, zero waste policies are kicking in, but it's also about the budget. Who will collect the reusables? Who will wash them? How much it costs? So it all has to be optimal and managed. But it's possible. They just have to be consistent about that approach and walk the talk.
Okay, let's go over to the last opinion of Rick from your last year.
What I'm surprised of what I like to see to be improved is especially innovations which contribute to sustainability. They should be more embraced by other parties to increase the acceptance among the public. With regard to packaging, you can think about brand owners, the government, and all kinds of institutions which are working in getting the rules implemented. They can lower the barrier for consumers to get the acceptance of the new development of reuse of recycled materials. I think that it's already said that consumers are very understandable about what is going on. They have multiple choices to make, and in the end of the day they have a budget as well, and especially nowadays this budget is less, so many decisions are based on price, so it should be within their price budget. And on one hand they might say we believe in a more durable solution which might be more expensive as well, but on the other hand they have to make a decision with their budget as well. So I think for retailers and brand owners it's the same story. They are open for it as well, they are willingly, but they live in a world with competition as well. And in the end of the day the consumer is standing in front of the rack and is making the decision. So I say government, and especially governmental organizations like the Waste Fund we have in the Netherlands, which collect a lot of money, they can accelerate the acceptance. It's a little bit like with what we have seen with wind energy as well, the windmills. In the beginning it was way not interesting to invest in it. With subsidization they realized the windmills. Nowadays you can realize windmill parks without subsidization. So that's where you have a major role for the government, and you need in between a body as well which is saying which solutions do we subsidize and which solutions we do not subsidize. And I think the Waste Fund, they're collecting, if you take plastic, they collect €1.20 a kg nowadays. They have a huge instrument to guide the right direction, to guide the direction consumers should make. So that is what I say as well regarding to targets. If you go around and you see all the targets of the government, of the European Commission, 2030 we should realize this, 2050 we should realize that. I think most of us are in retirement by 2050. You have to bring the targets forward. What is it we are going to achieve in a year from now? Which new developments do we embrace and give a chance to accelerate the change we want?
Rolf, I would
Yeah.
like to give you the word
So-
reaction.
Yeah, so I see a big role for KIDV there, and in fact we are doing lots of things. You can see in the other stands here in those halls. And yesterday also a colleague of mine gave a presentation. So I think I fully agree. Maybe not on the governmental part, but at least on the cooperation between let's say within the retail or within the produce. And I think that's happening. You can see the big producers and importance they are also more and more working together on sustainability. And they very often do that through the branch organizations. Additionally, what you also see is chain initiatives, ketenprojecten. What is going on more and more. Like we have the chain project Flexibles, where we have the full the full chain from producers until the sorters and recyclers working together to optimize sorting and recycling for flexible packaging. We have also a big project, the Planet Reuse. Also a lot of companies working together on the reuse part. So I agree, we have to work together, and we should not wait for the government in that case. Indeed, what you say, the packaging waste fund, the money goes to there. They pay also Netfang to take care of the collection, sorting and recycling, and we are also paid by the packaging waste fund. So it's our role to educate the producers and importers how to make the packaging more sustainable.
Traditionally seen, the packaging chain is quite conservative and quite old, actually. So they have a lot of old habits, like we have as consumer. The market also has as a chain, which not always helps the chain cooperation. Do you have an idea how we could overcome that?
Well, it can help indeed. Like the new regulations, like SUP, is pushing producers to do action, to make action on that. Indeed, but you see more and more also the companies having their own targets. They want to be want to have everything recyclable, all packaging recyclable in 2025. And they had already their targets before, let's say, the new European packaging and packaging waste regulation is there. So there are things going on, but I agree, sometimes things go a little bit too slow. Also, don't forget the big investments that the producers and the brand owners have to make on changing the packaging. What helps is also sometimes the public opinion. You see more and more action going on sustainable packaging. You see demonstration, etc., and that is not good for the name of the brand. So unfortunately, sometimes it's needed to push a little bit more to get a little bit more speed.
Okay, thanks for that. Now I actually want to have some interaction of all the public. Is there anybody who's got a question to one of the speakers?
That's difficult.
We were so
Yeah, maybe somebody else who wanted to say something or have a question for somebody else.
Actually, I wanted to mention something about the competition, about the brand owners, and in your experience, these are, for example, catering companies, and implementing that change, let's say reusable packaging, how we try to steer the fact that they do it best for the environment is, for example, to keep the monomaterial, like standardized type of packaging that they are all using. And while the design of it or color or shape is more adjusted to their needs. So if they sell smoothies that are 400 milliliters in a transparent cup, that's what we try to advise them which, for example, packaging, reusable packaging they can go for, so that it meets their, brand expectations, but making sure that they use the one type of material like all of those organizations, so that the recycling, collecting at the end of life is just streamlined. So those implementations really should always take the macro view on the whole value chain, for example, in Netherlands.
I think it's a good point. But you can see also, so I worked at a few large brand owners before, and you could see that, let's say, the influence of the sustainability manager is outreaching the influence of the marketing manager now and then. So there is a change going on. In the beginning, it was all about selling to have a nice packaging and to stand out on the shelf. And more, also the brand owners are realizing they have to work together and to get more standardization. Still, they would like to have one special thing for that packaging, of course.
That's
but
fine.
Yeah. That's happening.
Yeah.
But we also think in the beginning saw that the unconscious behavior is very important. Do brand owners know that they need you? Dida?
That's a good question. I think some do and a lot of them don't, actually. Because I think, we talked about the consumers and them not being aware of everything that influences them, but I think also that a lot of brand owners really do not know how much they influence their consumers. Because also, for example, just the color, like you said, can make a big difference in how package is experienced. And the funny thing is, if you ask people, do you think this influences your behavior? Do you think this makes it more sustainable? People say, no, for me, I can see that's the same package. It doesn't change me. But then you look at more subconscious level of behavior and also really behavioral experiments, and you see that it truly influences their behavior. So I think a lot of people, consumer, but also brand owners, really do not know how much small changes can make big differences. Yeah.
That's maybe... okay. We have a question. Okay.
Oh, wow.
You can talk.
Oh.
It's being worked on.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question for Didi. We see lots of logos appearing that say something is green or sustainable, or some brand owners or group of brand owners have their own logos. Does that work? Does that help? Is that needed? Do we need to have uniform logos with standards that everybody can use?
I think it definitely makes a difference. For specific logos, I can't say because I didn't do research about it, but yeah, sure. I think it really influences people, and I think that's really an ethical question because sometimes people do know how it is their behavior and they use a logo and they make it sustainable. If they're really sustainable, maybe that's a good thing because it makes people more happy to buy the product. But if it's not more sustainable, then yeah, it's really bad actually. So I think there should be rules for that, yeah.
What surprises me is that there's still so many recyclable, it's recycled, and then I see packaging. And now with my recycling background, just no, it's not recyclable or it cannot be recycled. Rolf, how do you deal with that?
Well, there are a lot of false claims that producers are putting on the packaging. We get a lot of questions on that. We even have a fact sheet, milieu claims on our website where you can see, okay, with examples, what is okay and what is not okay.
Do you get questions from brand owners or from consumers?
No, for the brand owners, what they put on the packaging. So you cannot claim 100% recyclable if it's not 100% recyclable. You really have to get some documentation behind it. So it is not like that. And you can even the Dutch authority can even can get a claim from them if you are not complying, if you are telling something wrong on your packaging.
But they don't really feel it because I see it so often on flexibles or whatever.
Yeah, and that's why we have to have harmonized logos on the packaging, and there should be certification behind it, and that's very important. Yeah.
Big role for you.
Yeah, we are trying to help in this case with the right companies and authorities. Yeah.
But what we also observe is like the another aspect of it, right? Recyclable. Many items are recyclable or compostable, but they are not composted. They are not recycled. It's just what we observe is indeed that the innovation within the packaging industry is so fast that waste management, infrastructure, and the end of life of these products is just not catching up. And that's the tricky one, because consumers are really confused. Oh, it's compostable. I'm so green. Like, there's no way it's composted in Netherlands or anywhere else. So, this is very challenging actually to explain and bring that awareness to consumers. And that confusion, I wonder if there shouldn't this be just forbidden, that if it's not recycled in the infrastructure of Netherlands, you should not be able to make the statement it's recyclable?
Do the brand owner or the marketing owner who puts it on there, do they even know, and how should they know?
I'm sorry, I don't know if they care or...
We care.
They care.
We care a lot, because we used to produce multi-layer products as well. Now it's all mono-layer. And that's, but I think what you say as well about compostable, I think if you put a claim on compostable, it is not compostable, then you get a claim back and they go after you. But it is the industrial compostability of the product that is confusing. But I think that a consumer is very much confused by all what is offered. If it looks brownish, it looks already as it is being recycled. But it's a lot of multi-material in it, and it's very hard to separate. And I think I think you should not forbid it. You should price it in a different way.
But for me, that's really strange, because if you have a plastic cup and it's marble and really recycled, we don't like it. But if it's paper and it's brown, then we like it and it's green. That really is something...
Perception.
It's perception. Why from plastic we do not accept and paper we do accept? Do you have anything to say to that?
What was your question specifically?
So from paper, when it's brown, we accept it and we like it. But when it's plastic and it's marble and you really see it's recycled, then we don't like it.
Yeah, I think perception is the right answer to that, because there are so many things that influence our perception, and sometimes what we see isn't what it really is. So I'm really going to talk about that more in 15 minutes. So
interesting, and maybe that's how I want to come to an end. Somebody else, any question? Our newcomers? No. Okay, then thanks to all the speakers being here and having the good conversation, I would say, and enjoy the day at Empack.
Thank you. Thank you so much.